All right, well, while I see the audience coming in now, I'll say good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're signing in from. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to Hycroft Mining's live event, hosted by Six. I'm pleased to introduce our speakers today, Hycroft Mining's President and CEO, Diane R. Garrett, and Alex Davidson, the company's Vice President of Exploration. Diane and Alex will be reviewing a presentation, and afterwards we'll be taking questions live, starting with those that came in advance over email. But as a reminder, you can submit your questions on the chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen at any point during the presentation, and we'll try to get to them while we've got time today. As always, today's event is being recorded and will be available on Six.com and YouTube within the next 24 hours. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it right over to Diane and Alex to get us started today.
All right. Thank you, Romeo. Appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. We're real excited about doing our inaugural webinar with Six. And Happy New Year to everybody. I think 2024 is shaping up to be a great year for our industry, and certainly a spectacular year for Hycroft lies ahead. So I'm real excited to talk to you about that. We will be talking about some forward-looking statements today. So this is our disclaimer, which we all have seen a million times. To refresh everybody's memory about Hycroft, we have over 10 million ounces of gold in the M&I category, over 3 million ounces in the inferred category. And what a lot of people don't realize is we have a significant amount of silver as well, 360 million ounces in the M&I category and just under another 100 million ounces in the inferred category. We're open in all directions and at depth. And we have 66 million of unrestricted cash, an additional 35 million that sits in a bond for the property, and that is a cash bond. This makes Hycroft one of the world's largest precious metals deposits, and it is in the best jurisdiction for mining, and that would be Nevada, USA. We have a tremendous amount of unexplored land position because the operations since the 80s, the open pit heap leach was just on about 10% of the land package. And the focus at that time and all through the last several decades has really been on gold. And we are really the first company to come in and take a serious look at the silver component as well. So very interesting to have a super large gold resource, but combined also with almost an equally large silver resource. We are doing what our team does best, which is applying first principles to really understanding this deposit, the geology, the mineralization, and what is driving this world-class system. And since the day we all walked in, we have known that there is more to the Hycroft system than just this large, low-grade open pit resource. And the results of the work that we've been doing in just a short 3 years is really bearing that anticipation out, and we've been very happy with the success we've been having under Alex and his team's leadership. We are well funded with 66 million in the treasury, which makes it great for a company, particularly in the markets that we're in, where financing has proven to be very challenging right now, notwithstanding the gold prices. And our team has a very well-established track record of delivering exceptional value to our shareholders. A lot of you are dialing in today probably because you've seen our recent news dating back to October about this new high-grade silver discovery. In October, we were finding elevated silver across the Hycroft system because we are the first company who looked at this system and said, let's not just focus on the gold, but let's see what we're recognizing in terms of the silver. And that led to us drilling the best hole ever in November. And then we announced some additional results last week. And that whole silver zone, which we're going to dive into details on that, shows that the silver zone is well-defined veins, excellent continuity, and remains open over a large distance. And some of the results we're seeing, 57 meters of 356 grams, 41 meters of 636 grams, 130 meters of 213. All of the results are on our website. We still have about half a dozen holes pending from that program, and we're anxious to get those back and out to the market as well. I always start with the team because it is the team that you're investing in at this point. That is the asset of the company. Most of our team came from Remarco. If many of you will recall, we went from 20 million market cap to over $1 billion market cap years before we ever got into production. And we did that by applying the same first principles and taking a fresh look at an asset, much like we're doing at Hycroft today. Alex joined us. He's got a phenomenal history, both above and underground, with Nevada Gold Mines, Newmont, Hecla, Rio Tinto. We just have an outstanding team, and we've got probably about 100 people on site that are doing excellent work. The most important thing for us is sending our people home safely every day. And I am really pleased to say that we have just passed 2 years of a 0.00 TRIFR. That is remarkable, and we were the recipient of many, many awards, including the top safety award through the SME organization. And some of you may say, well, yeah, you're not in operation, so how easy is that? Well, it's not easy. It doesn't matter if you're in exploration or if you're in operations. We have well over 100 people at site while we're drilling, and that includes contractors who we have to train to our safety culture. So the fact that we're able to achieve these, we also have very, very large equipment running around the site all the time. We're contouring pads, we're doing concurrent reclamation. So there's a lot of work that goes on. And any kind of a safety incident, whether you're an explorer or in operations, is a negative. So our safety record makes really top talent people want to come work for us because they know that we look after them. The Hycroft mine, as I mentioned, world-class assets. It's in northwest Nevada. We have extensive infrastructure on site, so we are way ahead of other developers, and given the fact that we've got permits for open pit heap leaching as well as milling operations. We are de-risked from the standpoint of power, infrastructure, and what we need to do now as we transition to the sulfide ore is to build the milling component to process the sulfide ore. If we just take a look at the Hycroft mine here, we sit near the California border and the Oregon border at the top of Nevada. And here's the Hycroft mine. We stay in the town of Winnemucca. Many of you have been to Winnemucca, and it's about a 50-mile drive west out Junco Road. The Hycroft mine, what you're seeing here in the yellow, is our land position of over 60,000 acres. The resource as it sits today, which is the 15 million ounces of gold equivalent, sits within the red boundary there. And you can see how much land we still have left to explore. The historic Rosebud mine, which was a very high-grade underground mine, a joint venture between Hecla and Newmont. In fact, Alex Davidson was the mine geologist at the Rosebud mines. He knows that system well. The claims sit in the pink boundary there. The actual Rosebud mine sits just in this area where I'm drawing that blue dot. And we picked up about a year ago these red claims in here from Newmont. So we have a 50-50 undivided interest with Hecla on those. But what was most significant about picking up those claims was the fact that we obtained data from Newmont covering the area between Rosebud and Hycroft. This is data that would have taken a couple of years to put together and many millions of dollars. And that has been amazing for us to combine that with our own geophysics, geochem work, and hyperspectral work. And it is putting together a very, very nice picture of this Hycroft system. So we're in proximity to a very high-grade mine, and we've got a massive resource here at Hycroft, and we are looking to see other high-grade opportunities and where the plumbing is coming from for this Hycroft system. Just want to give you a sense for those of you who have not been to site. These are actual photographs, and I just wanted to show you some of the pictures that we have to give you a sense of just how much infrastructure we do have on site. We've got a fully operational lab. We have truck shops, safety shops, admin, geology buildings. We also have a rail line that runs right by the property. So we can do a spur off that, and that will be helpful to bring in reagents and materials. We also have 3 stages of crushing, and I'll try to spin this slowly for everybody to get a good look. This is one of the world's largest primary crushers that FLS makes. And so this, as I mentioned, most developers, this puts us really far ahead in terms of the timeline to production. We also have a brand new leach pad that was completed in 2021. We have covered it to protect it because we still do have some oxide and transition ore that will go to the leach pad in the first 3 years of mining before we start going full on to sulfides, and actually we'll probably be in and out of some transition ore. So just based on the amount of sulfide sulfur, we will determine if it makes more money by sending it to the leach pad or sending it through the milling operation. And we have 2 processing facilities. This is the larger one, the North Merrill Crow plant, and this is where we'll be doing the work for our upcoming processing of the sulfide phase. And the Brimstone Merrill Crow plant will probably be closed because it will be too small for the next phase of operations. So as part of our strategy, initially was strengthening the resource. So we saw areas of higher grade that we wanted to see if there was continuity between those intercepts from historical drilling, and we determined that there was continuity. We understand where the high grade is coming from and how that is situated within the system of Hycroft. That helps us improve the overall economics. We've also converted waste into ore, and we have upgraded inferred material into M&I, and that has been the result of our drilling over the last couple of years, and we have launched the largest drill program that has been done at Hycroft in well over a decade. We are completing the pre-feasibility study for the pressure oxidation autoclave. We're doing some trade-off analysis right now, and that PFS is anticipated to be out by the end of the first quarter. And for the first time, we are taking a look at the district potential of Hycroft and determining, is there a high-grade starter mine? Is there an opportunity to understand the feeder system to Hycroft, which the geophysics indicate there are 3 potential feeder systems to Hycroft, which doesn't really surprise us, and that's consistent with what other geologists have expected in the past. And so we're doing a lot of ground-based work under Alex's leadership. And we also are looking at other opportunities in the industry should they be important in creating additional value for our shareholders. So let me just show you a little bit about the system. All of these are not cartoon pictures. These are actually taken from our geologic and our drill hole database, images that are created. What you see in the orange and the green is the measured and indicated resource. And the blue is inferred. So you can see there is a tremendous amount of opportunity to fill in some of those gaps at depth. This ore body is not defined by geology. It is defined by the amount of drilling and the extent of drilling that's been done. So we do expect this to grow considerably in the future as we do more drilling. And to give you a sense of how important and how large both the gold and silver resources are, this is the gold pit shell. If you look at just bulk tonnage gold, and if we look at bulk tonnage silver, you can see it's a substantial amount of silver along with the gold. And one of the things that Alex looked at was looking at the deposit in terms of gold equivalent ounces. So those areas that were very low grade gold really popped because they had very high significant silver components. And that type of analysis is what has drawn our attention to areas that are highly prospective for high-grade silver. And we see the results of that with the drill news we've been putting out since last fall. What you see here is, this is the Vortex deposit, and this is the Eiffel Tower. So you can get a sense of the scale of this asset. It really is amazing. But before this recent discovery at Brimstone, the idea is that we would be starting in the Bay Area and over to Camel and Brimstone, and then we would dive on Vortex. And Vortex has always been the highest grade silver until this recent discovery at Brimstone. So this means that the high grade at Vortex doesn't come into play until after about year 10. But with the recent discovery of Vortex, which sits much higher in the system, and then knowing what we have in Vortex and understanding that these two are likely to connect, we might be able to access this Brimstone area sooner. And that is what we are very focused on right now. And just to give you another view of that drilling, this is the resource cone at Hycroft. And you can see the drilling from the recent results that we've put out, dating back till November, December timeframe. This is some Vortex drilling that we also announced. And the thinking is we've got over 800 meters of strike here that you'll see in the press release we put out last week. We talk about a Vortex Brimstone trend. We are definitely seeing that this is a trend. And then the Vortex Camel trend in the other direction, the 600 meter strike length. So Alex is going to talk about why we believe that those two trends will connect and why we're super excited about the drilling results we've been getting. So we've talked a bit about our safety and how important that is to our team. On the metallurgical results, we have really outstanding results that we published in the fall. They were 10% higher than what we had assumed and what had previously been used on metallurgical studies. It's important to note that in 21, we actually drilled across the entire ore body, took representative samples of every single geologic domain, and ran the full suite of metallurgical tests on them. So we own every bit of this work. We stand behind it. We're using FLS and Hazen, which are some of the best. And John Marsden is our QP on this work, who is, you know, the Pope of metallurgy, as they call him. He wrote the book called The Chemistry of Gold Extraction, which every metallurgist has on their shelf. So we're very pleased with those results. Again, initiated the largest exploration program in over 10 years and really focused on, you know, going back to first principles and unlocking what we see as, you know, the potential for even higher value for our shareholders in the near term. And part of that, taking a fresh look at Hycroft, we also see that this is our resource here. But the work that Alex and his team have been doing have popped up the Wild Rose target, Chance, School Bus, and Oscar as high priority true exploration targets. And we have been drilling at Wild Rose and Oscar. And again, I don't want to steal Alex's thunder. He'll talk a little bit more about that. So we talk about this being an untold story of Hycroft because everybody knows what Hycroft was. Nobody really knows what it is and what it can be. And we are learning that, and we are developing that, and we are communicating that to the market. And that's just evidence of all the work that we did dating back till 22, and then in February, seeing these high-grade intercepts even deeper in Vortex, and then in October, more high-grade silver, and then yet the best hole ever in November, followed up with drill results last week, and a lot more to come. So now I'm going to turn it over to Alex so that he can walk through all the exciting stuff about the new drilling we've been doing. Alex.
Thanks, Diane. I wanted to make a quick comment there. Your last slide is really great. It highlights the fact that in the summer of 2022, we kicked off a robust exploration program. And when I came in that summer, my goal was really to help unlock the value that we know exists there. This is an amazing deposit. There's incredible amount of metal in the ground, and I wanted to be a part of that. What we're looking at these pictures here is from our recent drilling. These are from the November release that we put out, and it shows the silver mineralization that we see in this zone. And the bigger part of the story was kind of fun. Our geologists who were logging these RC chips, they were logging this as it was coming off the drill, and they immediately came in to my exploration manager, Justin, who I have to say, I've over the last 18 months, I've had the opportunity to build just a tremendous team. These guys are really great. But the geologists came in and they're like, hey, we're seeing something significant here. And this is a pivotal point in this part of the story. They're doing that, gave us an opportunity to sit down and go, okay, what do we understand? What do we not understand about this part of Brimstone? And it allowed us to pivot our core drill and drill some core holes to give some real good detail in there. In the core photo that you see at the bottom, it's a great demonstration of classic epithermal textures that we're seeing with some amazing silver mineralization. This little bit that you see here, this core photo was taken from an intercept over 4 meters that's 3,800 grams per ton silver. So when we're talking significant silver, we really mean significant silver. So I want to give a little more detail on these two trends. And when we started getting the assays back and started evaluating this, it gave us a moment of pause. It's like, okay, well, where else are we seeing this high a grade sort of mineralization? And so we sat down and evaluated all of the data across the deposit. We put together grade thickness maps, and that really started driving this picture of these two trends. And what I like about this picture is it really demonstrates that, here's the resource cone as we know it. And we have drilling that's well below that resource cone, and shows that we still have more work to do both at depth and along the strike of these two zones. So as we start talking a little bit more about these trends, I wanted to give you a sense of where the new drilling is sitting. So this is a bird's eye view of the Hycroft pit. And as we spin around and look to the east, those 3 holes that you see under Brimstone there, those were the November drill holes. And if we transition to the next view, spins around and gives us a view looking almost down the strike of this new trend that we're seeing at Brimstone. And I just want to give you a 3-dimensional sense of how that drilling is oriented. And these are the holes from our most recent press release. And again, just trying to give you the sense of that 3D orientation of those holes. So if we move to that next orientation, you're looking roughly down the strike, a little bit oblique, but it just gives that nice 3-dimensional view of the orientation of this drilling. And for me, it's important that we understand how the drilling is related to the rest of that this deposit. So now if we move to the next slide there, thank you. This figure on the right is really important. It clearly demonstrates we have 2 very strong orientations. What's really important is that red shape that's in the middle there. Justin had the opportunity to build a grade shell in Leapfrog with all of the data greater than 70 grams per ton. What's important about that shell, though, is the average grade in that is 137 grams per ton silver. So this is really showing great continuity. We see it both in the vortex to camel trend, and we see it also in the vortex to brimstone trend. Another very important part of this is it is demonstrating that it's open both to the northwest, to the northwest for vortex to camel, and along the northeast to brimstone, and southwest along that same strike. These two trends in northern Nevada appear regularly. They're associated with big mineralized deposits across the area. And so this really gives us a lot of confidence in what we're doing. We're seeing this macro scale geology is really an important part. And it's an important part to understanding the rest of the Hycroft story. So over the next year, over the course of 2024, this is going to be a big focus of our exploration program. We're going to dedicate a lot of time to working this area. There's a lot of gaps, and there's a lot of potential to fill this in. Now, I also want to give you a little bit of an update on our exploration outside the resource area. And Diane, as you had mentioned earlier, we did acquire 3 patented claims. Newmont's shared those patented claims anyhow down in the Rosebud area. And with those patented claims came a significant amount of data. Our claim package as a whole was already had heaps of targets in it that are all pretty exciting. But getting this data really helped us focus in. What we did is we took the opportunity to develop a rating and ranking of all of these target areas that we've got. I'm in a position where I have a very target-rich environment, so I needed to pare down and pick out what the best targets are. So we looked through data quality, et cetera, just to try and define what these targets are. And 4 came right up to the top, and that's Wild Rose, Chance, the School Bus, and Oscar. And of those 4, we decided that our best information, best quality data, best understanding that we've got right now is Wild Rose and Oscar. So we focused in on those areas in 2023. We did some more geochemistry and soil sampling. We did some IP geophysics up in Wild Rose, and we did a magnetic survey down in Oscar. We also had an opportunity to drill a few holes in Wild Rose and a couple holes down in Oscar. The results of that is still pending. We're still waiting for some assays on that. But all of the indications are these are 2 top targets that will remain in our focus. We're going to continue putting in some attention to these areas, do a little more work in 2024 and beyond. This is a really exciting story for me as a geologist. This area is just an amazing district. The metal content in the resource area is just fascinating. So we're really excited to be able to have the opportunity to unlock the value of this deposit.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And we're going to have lots of opportunity to hear more from Alex with the questions that we're hoping everybody's going to be asking. So our milestones coming up for 2024, as Alex said, a big focus is this new brimstone area and more drilling there. Finalizing the engineering studies and doing the trade-off analysis and, looking at the results from Wild Rose and Oscar and what is that telling us, and then looking at development plans for the project. This is our capitalization and ownership. Everybody's probably well aware that Eric's brought in AMC Entertainment are our two largest shareholders. And these are just capitalization numbers with our cash position. And just in summary, it is one of the world's largest gold and silver deposits in a tier 1 jurisdiction, highly leveraged to gold and silver prices, a lot of upside potential, which we've always talked about, but now we're actually able to give real concrete information and numbers to that upside potential. And we just think we have a long way to go on further defining that. Well developed in terms of our infrastructure and our permitting, and we are in the process of transitioning from the oxide material into the sulfide material. And you've got a very committed, passionate team working on this project. We do own a popcorn machine at Hycroft, and so this is all of us raising our bags of popcorn. To our shareholders, we thank you very much for your support. And I think that concludes our presentation, and we will then take questions from the audience.
Great. Alex, Diane, thank you so much for that presentation. Thanks, everyone, for submitting so many questions. If we don't get to your question today, rest assured, we'll make sure that the Hycroft team does get back to you. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Start with a couple questions that came over email. Diane, kind of first up is an amalgamation of a number of questions that basically amount to, when does mining begin at the Hycroft mine?
Okay, that seems to be the number one question we always get. I know a lot of you became shareholders when we were still processing ore off the leach pads and producing gold and silver, and now we're transitioning into the next phase. Unfortunately, that work of transitioning in the sulfide phase was not previously completed. And so we are having to do that work, and engineering studies are very, very important. And it does take time, but we're nearing the completion of those engineering studies now. It's important because you don't want to tackle a world-class asset like this without fully understanding the exact proper grind size, the best method for generating the best cash flow for shareholders. Otherwise, and we've seen it too many times where you start up an operation prematurely and unfortunately it gets shut down because the work up front wasn't done. And we will never apologize for doing the good work up front. We have a history of doing that, and I know it can be painful. But also remember that there is a lot of opportunity to create significant value in the share price long before operations continue. And our former company, Remarco, was certainly evidence of that. But when are we going to start mining operations? Well, we first have to get the feasibility, the pre-feas and the feasibility work completed. Then there's about a 6-month period of detailed engineering. And then we don't know what the lead times are going to be for the mills. In some market conditions, you can get mills, within 9 months. It was just 2 years ago, it was taking 2 years to get delivery of those mills. And we've all seen the issues with supply chains. We also have to make sure that the markets are there and that there is sufficient flows of money coming into the market in order to finance the purchase and construction of those mills. The construction period will probably take about 18 months to 2 years. So we're a few years away from production once we make the production decision to move forward. Our goal right now that we're on this very high grade area of brimstone, that delivers a lot more cash flow and revenues and value to our shareholders than starting very large with the low grade deposit. It also means less capital, less expenditure up front, and much better returns for our shareholders. So we really want to take a look at that over the next few months as we continue to drill. As soon as we get our economics and our engineering studies out to the market, then we'll be able to put a better timeline together, because those studies also include, the lead times for mills. We'll be looking at that and cost of the mills and everything else. So I know that a lot of people are anxious to hear, and I promise you there is nobody more anxious than this team to get going on the next phase of operations, but we want to do it right because we want to do it right for our shareholders and generate the best value we can. So it won't be long before we'll be able to put a timeline on that for all of you.
Thanks, Diane. Next question that came in over email is really, what's the next catalyst that's going to likely improve shareholder value or has potential to improve shareholder value?
I think the next catalyst is really this new high-grade silver system. Look, a lot of people have known about Hycroft. Very large, great location, low grade. Low grade means you have to build a massive operation, plus 60,000 tons a day, high capital, and to get the economies of scale to process lower grade ore. With the work that we've been doing in this higher grade component, that totally changes the perception of what Hycroft is. That 15 million ounces of gold equivalent is not going anywhere. It will always be there. But if we can start less expensive, lower capital, better returns for our shareholders, that is the smart move to make. And so I think the more we develop out this high-grade system and demonstrate to the market that whatever you thought you knew about Hycroft, you can put that out of your head. It is identical to what we did at the Hale Gold Mine when we were with Remarco. And I hate to keep going back and talking about that, but it is such a unique parallel to the Hycroft story. So there was an asset that everybody said was low grade, it was small, there was nothing else left. Company after company drilled it and never found anything. And yet we took a new view of the geology, reinterpreted that geology, and had a very, very massive high grade discovery. And the market rewards you for that. And I think we're starting to see it. We know it in the phone calls and emails that are coming in across the board from people now paying attention, because now we're demonstrating that, you know, this is not the same Hycroft. This is not your mother's Hycroft, right? This is something new. This is a very unique story, and it still has so much more to go. So I think the drilling news and getting the economics of the project out and determining the robustness of that is going to be the real value drivers for our share price. And of course, increasing commodity prices, but we don't have control over that.
That's a bit more crystal ball. But I've got some questions from the chat. Ken asks what the earliest we could get the economic value of the project by way of an economic study.
That economic study will be out at the end of the second quarter of this year.
Great, thank you. MKS from the chat asks, stated you'd start with the surface material. What do you see for a value of that surface material as you move to the richer areas?
So we have, on the existing resource itself, it is fairly homogeneous in terms of grade. We're just under 0.5 gram of gold. And so, but when we talk about the surface, it's all surface and it's all open pit mining. Although this new Brimstone vortex area could be underground. In fact, it would be underground if we were to start there. But the surface mining, as we transition from oxides into sulfides, it's homogeneous grade, but it's just a different processing technique for processing sulfides over oxides. But the caveat there is we are seeing that as we go deeper in the system, as evidenced by Vortex, as evidenced by the Rosebud mine to the south, and as evidenced by our new drill results and new silver discovery at Brimstone, we are seeing higher grades, and we're starting to see that classic epithermal system veining.
Great, thank you. Roberto from the chat asks, why renounce to the unrestricted cash to pay back a debt that would only come due in 2027?
The unrestricted, I'm sorry, maybe I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat that, Romeo?
Yeah, I'll just read it exactly as Roberto's written it. He asks, why renounce to the unrestricted cash to pay back a debt that would only come due in 2027?
Renounce. So I don't know.
That would be in relation to the recent news, Diane.
Okay, the Sprott debt, yes.
Yeah.
So part of our goal and objective is been to clean up the balance sheet. Look, we inherited debt with this company. We would never take on debt for a company that is not yet cash flowing. That is big no-no, rule number one. You just don't do it. And yet we see companies doing it all the time right now in this market because it's the only way they can finance. But here we are, we've got this debt, and we want to clean up the debt off our balance sheet. We had sufficient cash. We're sitting today with 66 million, which is an enviable position. Yes, it was nice to have the 107 million, and yes, that debt wasn't due until May. But here's the thing with that debt. It was brought in as project financing debt, and it comes with a lot of restrictions. So it restricts us from doing certain transactions, from doing certain drill programs. It restricts us in the way we spend our money. So our goal was twofold: to reduce the debt on the balance sheet, and then Sprott has been wonderful to work with. And even though we left a balance of 15 million, we are now free of those restrictions so that we can do these other things at the project. Debtors always want to restrict you from spending your money because they want to make sure they get paid back when the maturity comes due. And so now we have a lot more control over what we do at the project. At the same time, we have reduced the debt on the balance sheet, and we're going to continue to improve our balance sheet.
Great, thank you. As a two-part question from Daniel. First bit, he goes into some context. He notes that you helped facilitate the sale of Remarco, propelling from 20 million to the value of $1 billion plus. And he notes that Remarco had 12,000 acres. Meanwhile, Hycroft has 72,000 acres plus. So he's wondering if you see a similar value addition coming to Hycroft, especially with the latest findings of higher grade silver and gold.
We absolutely do. At Remarco, it was changing the thinking by the market of what they thought the Hale gold mine was and what we demonstrated that potential truly could be. And it made it very attractive as a takeover target. At Hycroft, we are similarly changing the thinking of what people have always known Hycroft to be, but what is true potential. And I hear it all the time in the market before this discovery. Well, many companies have been through Hycroft and they've done drilling. So if there was something more out there, they might have found it. Well, it's not that they didn't do any drilling, but it was the way in which they drilled. It was not understanding the system and what was controlling the mineralization, and certainly what was controlling the high-grade silver or high-grade in general. So I do see the same value drivers. Now, the uniqueness about Remarco 2 is when we were changing the perception and delivering this very high-grade, phenomenal results over and over and over with multiple best holes ever drilled, we also had a rising gold market. It touched 2,000. So now let's look at Hycroft and the market we're in right now. We see gold over 2,000, so it's phenomenal. We have yet to start seeing a lot of the new inflows of money coming into the sector, particularly from the generalist funds. And when they step in, and we do believe, and people much smarter than me believe that 2024 is setting it very nicely for that, and we can talk about the reasons why if anybody's interested. But when that money comes flowing in, it propels, all stocks. And so based on the work we're doing, based on these results, which are resonating extremely well in the market, then you get the new inflows of money in these higher gold and silver price environments. And then we are looking very attractive as a home for those monies for people to invest. And then that helps to propel the stock. So I see so many parallels between this story and the Remarco story.
Great, thanks. The second part of that question, this is based on your industry expertise. Do institutional investors typically invest before drilling campaigns or afterwards?
It all depends. They can invest before if they are following a team that has a demonstrated track record, and if the team has done enough work to make them feel confident that those drill targets are well thought out and advanced enough that there's a high probability of good return. Others, and it also depends on a lot of other factors, what their other portfolios are doing, what market conditions are doing. Others would rather pay a little more for less risk. So what you do see, though, is, and the same thing at Remarco, people didn't invest for those first few holes we put out. And once we start demonstrating this thing is getting bigger and bigger, then they came in with a vengeance. And I think you're seeing this here at Hycroft. We're getting requests for so many meetings, really wanting to hear from Alex and understand more about this system. So sometimes it's a little bit of, I'll pay a little bit more for less risk, and I want to see what the next few holds. So a lot of people were waiting on our results we put out yesterday. They were very well received. Some may wait until the next round comes out, and I don't know, the next few weeks or month, whenever the last holes come in. But it could go both ways.
Great, thanks. Switching gears a little onto future exploration. What impact would a discovery outside of the known resource have, and how likely do you think that is?
That I'm going to kick over to Alex, even though I like to be a geologist every now and then.
Yeah, that's a great question. One that we ask ourselves every day, basically. There's a lot goes into that discovery. We have to gather a lot of data. Like I had mentioned earlier, it's first going through that round of geochemistry, understanding what the soil samples are telling you. How did that compare to the geophysics? Getting that geophysics in is critical. It's the most efficient use of your money for that first look into the ground. There's a lot of work that really helps us generate what these targets are. It's methodical, detailed evaluation of every bit of data that comes through and understanding it, how it relates to all of the other pieces of data. So it takes a long time to really generate a valuable target, and we're taking every opportunity we can to make sure that we're taking a proper approach to getting that discovery made. The area is probably one of the most well-endowed areas in northwestern Nevada. So the likelihood of finding something, I think, is quite high. My two favorite spots are definitely Wild Rose and Oscar targets. There's great information there that gives us good hope for something. It's a story yet to come, so I'm excited about it.
Thanks, Alex. In the interest of time, I'm going to combine a number of questions I see in the chat with some questions that came in over email. The basic idea of them is, will Hycroft's remaining $66 million cash on hand be enough to get us through feasibility study and build and install those mills?
It's certainly enough to get us through the pre-feasibility work and starting out on that feasibility study. And, this gives us runway of several years. The fortunate thing is, while we will be employing third-party groups, we still have a lot of very talented individuals internally that have. One of our technical studies is this will be his 14th mine to start up, and he's worked all over the world. So we have a lot of ability to do a lot of this work in helping the engineering firms along in their understanding of what we're doing at Hycroft. So it will get us several years down the road, and certainly we can do a feasibility study with that balance. And so we're mindful of our shell price, we're mindful of dilution, and we want to be. The nice thing is that a lot of companies are looking for money right now. We don't need money.
Sorry, I just want to chime in here, Diane. It's a little muffled when you're talking. Can you?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
Okay.
much better. Thanks.
So what happened?
We
Sorry.
want to hear every last word. Come on.
I know. You missed. Anyway, so we're mindful of dilution. We don't have a need for raising any additional funds right now, and we do have money to get us through feasibility. Yes.
Perfect. Thanks. One question with respect to location: how close are you to the McDermott caldera, and do you anticipate any benefit from the recent news of that area?
I can't speak to any of their news per se. Distance-wise, we're about 85 miles just southwest of actually southwest of the McDermott caldera.
Great, thanks. This combines a couple questions, but really people want to know if the infrastructure Hycroft already has on site, if it's optimal for processing these new high-grade silver discoveries. And if not, what else is needed to get those into production?
That's an excellent question. So this equipment, a lot of it has been refurbished over the years, and we keep it exercised. So the crushers run, I think once a week we're running them. We keep everything exercised and in good shape. So this equipment, the 3-stage crushing, the lab, the Merrill-Crowe plant, we just completely upgraded our lab with all new state-of-the-art equipment there. So all of that is in great shape. When we process the higher grades, we are clearly not going to be heap leaching those. Those are sulfide ores, and they're going to be going through a milling operation. So the mills and the flotation cells for that operation for all the sulfides, which is the predominance of the resource at Hycroft as it stands today, that will be built anew. But we will need the crushing and all of that. But we will be building the next component for the sulfide ore.
Great. Ken asks, have you given any thought to acquiring a producer, taking advantage of depressed equity using your great cash position to get cash flow going?
We have. We are very active in the M&A space and have looked at many, many opportunities because we think that is good value for our shareholders, that, we've got a plug and play team of very talented operations people. And so we could take on a producing asset, combine their teams with our teams, and that would help generate cash flow while we're going through the development of the next phase of operations. We're also very mindful of, what those opportunities look like. We want good, safe jurisdictions and things where, we know we can add value to the shareholders, and similarly, things that are not burdened by a significant debt that impact and take away generating value for the shareholders. But yes, very actively.
It appears as though we've lost the host. Honestly, What is going on with technology these days? It's been a week of technological issues left, right, and center. So I'll step in here, no problem. Okay. In the interest of time, we'll pose maybe one more question, and then we can wrap up. And for those questions that we weren't able to get to, we will follow up with answers to those questions via email as well. So here's a question for Alex, a good way to wrap up. These new developments are certainly exciting. Can Alex provide an indication of how much you're aiming to drill on these targets in the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, just starting off with the first 6 months of the year, we're planning about 12,000 feet of core drilling in the silver zone between Camel Vortex and Vortex to Brimstone, so that those two trends are a high value target for us. That is only just the beginning. Across the next 18 months to 2 years, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in there. We've got a lot of things to pin down. We need more geochemistry in the area. We need to get a better understanding of the structural paragenesis of this new trend. So there's a heap of work going to come over the next 2 years to include drilling.
Excellent. Diane, do you want to finish off with anything, put a point on that and close out this excellent webinar we've had today?
Well, I think how I would close out on Alex's last comment was, look, to spend a lot of money in doing drilling to get more of the same low grade, which is what what Hycroft is, doesn't really add value to our shareholders because the resource is already a 15 plus year mine life. But on this new discovery, on this high grade, understanding these higher grades, longer intercepts, the deeper you go, we don't know what else is going on down there. And we are certainly going to support that drill program, because as long as we're delivering results and we are adding significant value to those assets, that adds value to our shareholders, and we will keep funding that and supporting it because that is the right thing to do. So we're real excited about it. I mean, I don't even know how to share with you all the excitement that everybody has at site with Alex's team and all of us. This is really cool stuff, and the fact that we've been able to achieve this in just 3 years of being the new management is really remarkable in our space. You could be spending a decade. It could still be there, but it could be a long time. And that is why I started the presentation with it all goes back to the team. It is the team is the asset you're investing in to deliver the value for shareholders. So I just wanted to say thank you for being here with us. We're going to be doing a lot of marketing on the road. Please email us any questions, call us. We're always here to answer your questions. We just thank you for your time today, and thank you to our shareholders for your support.
Thank you very much, Diane and Alex, and apologies. The internet gods frowned on me, it looks like, for a minute. It does happen. But thanks, everyone who joined us from across the world, looks like. So really appreciate everybody joining in. I know we didn't get a chance to get to every question, or if you're like me and you think of the perfect question right after the webinar ends, please do reach out. I'll make sure that a Hycroft representative gets in touch with you very soon. And the replay will be available if you'd like to share it with your friends, family, and peers by tomorrow morning. So keep an eye out for that as well.